Verso here in the beautiful San Juan, Puerto Rico, at the Museum de Arte de Puerto Rico. It's an awesome place, really nice spot. I have my really, it's almost like a dream list of different people to interview here. Between the few events, so there's all kinds of OGs here. I have with me here Andrew Keys. He's the managing partner of Darma Capital. Been in the space for a long time. So tell me a little bit, Andrew, about Darma Capital and what brought you here to Metaverse.
Sure. So Darma Capital is a crypto investment manager. We have three core businesses. First, we run an institutional staking facility where we have over 10,000 validators. We stake and validate 1 out of every 20 transactions that occurs on Ethereum. We then have a venture arm where we invest in startups across the ecosystem, specifically looking at infrastructure and intersection points of smart contracts and file storage. That's kind of our sweet spot. And then lastly, we have a lending facility to help geodiversify the interplanetary file system, primarily out of China. So basically, we lend Filecoin to miners that need it to stake and earn a yield in that regard.
Nice. So, I mean, the Filecoin is something I've heard a lot about this week. It keeps coming up. Seems like a very important protocol. Talk a little bit about your work with that, and what are your thoughts? Sure. Do you think how high do you think it's going to
go? So I'd say, broadly speaking, before I jump right into Filecoin, I think it's important to kind of think from like the Web 2 context versus the Web 3 context, and really the application layer of Web 2 was really monopolized by Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and the majority of the money accrued there, where the protocols like HTTP, TCP/IP, they didn't make any money. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see an inverse in Web 3, where we're going to have these multi-trillion-dollar protocols. Ethereum as a smart contracting protocol, Filecoin, IPFS for a decentralized file storage protocol. And really they're kind of the commodities of the fuel of Ether and the file storage fuel, if you will, for Filecoin. And those assets are, in my opinion, potentially priceless. Mm-hmm. Because they will literally be the operating blood and heartbeat to the digital economy. And specifically with America, in the United States, we take for granted the ability to store our files somewhere, whether it's Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. In other parts of the world, like Egypt, they can shut off where you store your files. They can ransom, and they could basically seize that information much easier. And in kind of more corrupt places, they do. Yeah. And just like in America, we have a stable capital markets, even though the dollar's getting inflated by the printing press.
Diluted and inflated.
But similarly, that versus somewhere like Zimbabwe, where the money is worthless completely, and I think that's a good kind of frame of reference for something like Bitcoin or Ether. Mm-hmm. And you can just kind of continue that analogy with other assets, like file storage, and then having it to be non-repudiable, censorship resistant, and decentralized, and not beholden to one specific vendor. And it's 1/100th the cost of storing files with Amazon.
Right.
So I think that that in and of itself, Bezos himself said, someone else's margin is his profit.
Right.
And I think we can do that in a decentralized manner with decentralized file storage as well.
Yeah. Well, it's really amazing. One of the pleasures of being in the space and doing what I do is you get to talk to really smart people. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we got one right here. So you're living now here.
Yes. Been here for 4 years. Came down about 2 months after Maria. Okay. And really have watched Puerto Rico rise, kind of like from a phoenix from the ashes, and then explode in popularity.
Yeah.
You're seeing a few aspects of humanity kind of converge with remote work, what's going on politically without getting political in the United States with taxes there, and the ability to have incentives and these types of incentives. If you look at what Hong Kong was in the 1800s versus what Hong Kong was today as a treasury of China, Puerto Rico could grow in a similar fashion as a treasury, if you will, of America. And I think that this place is kind of infinite upside, and it's being fueled by some of the smartest brains in the world moving here.
Yeah, well, it is amazing. I know the human capital is something we've been talking about. Obviously, historically, a lot of it has moved out.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we see the influx moving in. There are historically, I was talking to Brock, I don't know when it was, a year or two ago or whatever, but some old banks that are here that, it would be interesting if that's what ended up happening, is if Puerto Rico ended up being the banking
International
center,
financial.
it would be.
Yeah.
It would be
I mean, I think there are definitely incentives in place to catalyze that.
Yeah.
And I think that they're thinking thoughtfully, if you will, on kind of the carrots and the sticks.
Yeah.
And I think that there's no better place in the world in terms of a jurisdiction for a U.S. citizen to live. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you just a real quick story that I think you'll find interesting. When I was debating on living here, somebody kind of told me this story, and I think it's fascinating, and it kind of dovetails being here with Metaverse and whatnot. I think the most successful software in the history of Earth is Microsoft Office. Word, Excel, PowerPoint,
use it all
Outlook.
the time, right?
I mean, literally everything. And I mean, we can say Gmail works, but I mean, think about how that's embedded into all of society.
Yeah.
All across the world. We are about 4 miles from where the source code to Microsoft Office sits.
Wow.
And every time you purchase a Microsoft Office license, you purchase it from Puerto Rico.
How about that?
And so if Microsoft Office, the most successful software in the world, can reside here and be sold from here, so can your startup.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing thing. I know they've done a great job here at Metaverse. So let's talk about this. This is the whole Metaverse.
Yeah.
It's hot. Right?
Super cool.
It's so hot. What did you do here? I'm sure you were talking. What are your thoughts on Metaverse?
Sure. So, I mean, I think we're now distilling the concept of 2 basic assets: fungible assets and non-fungible assets. And NFTs can be my shoe, or they could be a Picasso painting, or anything. There's really a wide gamut of that. It could be intellectual property for a pharmaceutical patent. It could be the 1,000 inputs needed to build a car. From the tires to the screws to the windshields. Each one of those could be an NFT, where you can track the chain of custody, the authenticity of the asset, the provenance of the asset, and how they're combined to build one vehicle that gets certified. And we're starting to see the economies of these assets work in tandem, where you could basically fractionalize an asset. You can borrow, you can use that asset as collateral and borrow dollars against it where it was previously illiquid. You're going to start seeing concepts like the pharmaceutical IP, where people could fund into drug research and discovery. And then basically own some of the upside if there's a breakthrough. And so while art has resonated with the masses, it is scratching the surfaces of what is to come.
Yeah. It's amazing, and you can see it all over the world at these different types of events. I was just up in New York City for NFT NYC. Jody Rich did an amazing job there. But yeah, it's something that I have always been interested in. So I don't want to go too long. I think we could sit here and talk for quite a while. Maybe some last thoughts. What would you give if you could give a pointer to one of the companies that would want to talk to you? What you would like to see, and maybe how people get a hold of you?
Sure, I'm interested in the intersection of smart contracts and file storage. I think they're going to intersect very, very efficiently. And I'm always interested to learn as much as possible. And there's no stupid questions. I'm really open to speaking to anybody that wants to have a good conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Andy
Cheers.
Keys,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers.
We'll see you soon.